First, Frank, let's start with the Stanley Cup playoffs as the Edmonton Oilers jumped up to a 3-1 series lead over the Dallas Stars. Another victory on home ice for Edmonton. And yeah, I mean, it was a 4-1 final. That was a 2-1 hockey game, though, until the two empty netters by the Edmonton Oilers. But another, what I would call mature performance by the Oilers. They didn't have their best through 40 minutes. They really had to rely on Stuart Skinner early in that game. But I don't think Dallas had a grade A opportunity in the third period when they were down 2-1.
Yeah, I think the thing that I was thinking watching the game, and obviously you had a front row seat to it, but the Oilers were never really lost control. They were never really not in control of the game, which I think is another way to say mature effort, clean. It was rather in the end pretty decisive. And the Oilers have held a market advantage throughout this entire series, trailing for a grand total of 14 minutes and 2 seconds through 4 games that they've been in the driver's seat. And so maybe control is the applicable word because they've dictated just about every portion of the way that this series has unfolded and the style that it's going to unfold. So that part has been a huge feather in their cap.
And I would imagine also pretty demoralizing for Dallas to come out in the first period. They had 34 shot attempts at 5-on-5 in the first period, only 19 the rest of the game, 16 shots on goal in the first, 13 the rest of the game. But you come out of a first period where you play so well and you throw so much rubber at Stuart Skinner, and Edmonton gets one power play goal and they're up 1-0, and you're sitting in the room if you're Dallas, and it's like, okay, last game we had that second period that was so good and you still sat in the room down 2 goals. And then last night you come out, throw everything you can at them. You're sitting in the room going, we're down 1-0 in this game. Like, is our best just not good enough? And that's really what it feels like now after these 2 games in Edmonton. It feels like whatever Dallas is going to throw at the Oilers, they're just going to find a way to best it.
And look at this board here. The Oilers suddenly have the better penalty kill in the series. And I think you used the word dejected. I think you could use demoralized. I'm a big believer in body language and posture. And that team in the third period, as you know, the clock is ticking down, they looked a little bit beaten down, defeated. And I think that part of their thought process is, as you mentioned, sitting in the first intermission, or even if it was after the second period of game 3 in Edmonton, where they sit back and say, what do we have to do to beat these guys? Like, we've done almost everything that it is that we can, and yet we're not finding a way to get on the board here. That's a pretty tough way to then turn around for game 5 and try and conjure some belief to send the series back to Alberta. So I look at this situation, and if you were to tell me, and we just had this debate on the DFO rundown that we just taped with Jason Greger, a special Wednesday edition, which team has the better chance to win game 5 to extend the series? To me, it's the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, and we'll talk about them in just a second. Again, Stuart Skinner, excellent. The power play, good. Corey Perry, the ageless wonder, finds the back of the net. And how about Ryan Nugent-Hopkins? 4 straight multi-point efforts for the Nuge as he begins the Western Conference Final and is just on an absolute tear. I mean, you look at those numbers. 7 of his 13 assists in these playoffs have come already in these 4 Western Conference Final games. But they were riding a high last night in Edmonton, Frank. And then this morning, Oilers fans just get knocked down a peg. Really, really tough news. Chris Knobloch saying Zach Hyman needs surgery after this collision or hit from Mason Marchment. Zach Hyman's playoffs are over, and that is a massive, massive loss for the Oilers.
Yeah, really unfortunate all the way around. Wrist surgery for Zach Hyman, and a tough spot. I mean, you saw it happen, and you saw him ready to stand there and congratulate his teammates after, and the hug that he shared. You kind of had a pretty good sense that they knew that this was bad news. And look, particularly going up against a Florida team, by the way, a Florida team that drafted him, and thinking about how you can create a path to victory with a ferocious Florida attack. How do you match that? Zach Hyman is the way you do it. The guy has hit everything that moves. He has 30 some more hits in this postseason than he did all regular season. He's the NHL's premier press player, the premier forecheck player. And he's been damn reliable in contributing offense as well. So he has a clutch element to his game. He's got a fight, a belief that I think even as that team, remember last year against the Panthers, down 3-0, he was one of those guys that was one of the most vocal believers, even down 3-0, that I think that helped spur on that team. So to not have that, very likely for the Stanley Cup final as well, if the Oilers advance, that's a huge blow. It just is. It's one less peg that you have to stand on to try and find a way to beat the Panthers.
And now Chris Knobloch has an interesting decision. I think a lot of people just do the very quick, okay, you lose a top 6 player, put Jeff Skinner in the lineup. But I don't think it's as simple as that for the Oilers. They have the option. You see Ekholm listed on their D pairings here. If Ekholm is available to return, they could put him with Bouchard, or they could run 11-7 because Bouchard and Kulak has been a really good pairing. You look at the forward group, Frank, the Oilers last night won that game despite only winning 38% of the faceoff. Gregor brought up this name. The Oilers could also really use an extra penalty killing body right now with both Connor Brown and Hyman out. Noah Philp was a damn good penalty killer in Bakersfield this year, and he's very good in the faceoff circle. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion Jeff Skinner comes into the lineup.
I agree, and I think I would consider giving Philp a shot because he also has size as well, in addition to ability to win faceoffs. But I'd go with 11-7. I'd try and, if Ekholm is ready to go, try and ease him into the lineup. If you win, it's your last game before the Cup final. I don't know that you want to just toss him into game 1 of the final. Not that he wouldn't be able to handle it, but that's a big, it's a great luxury to have, to say, hey, play game 5, and then your next game might not be for another week after the fact. If both teams win in game 5, we're looking at a June 4th start date for the Stanley Cup final. That I think you have to kind of game plan that part of it out. And Stetcher's been so good. You have this ability to ease Ekholm into the lineup. It doesn't need to be out of the chute a 22-minute night. It could be 14, get your bearings, get adjusted, feel good, don't be overtaxed and overworked, and continue to use Stetcher in a very admirable utility role that he's played. Why go crazy trying to reinvent the wheel here? Use what you've got in front of you, particularly at a time when you'd otherwise have to take a forward out. With Connor Brown not being ready, just Hyman out, 11-7.
Yeah, I think it's a very easy, sort of like you pointed out, seamless kind of transition for them. Someone in the chat asked about Connor Brown again. He's already been ruled out for game 5, which goes tomorrow night. Oilers looking to punch their ticket to the Cup final.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.